Evening, folks. I'm going to do a bit of a talk on learning to fly 3-axis microlights and the adventures beyond actually learning to fly these things. Some of the things I'm just going to cover is where it all started. I think we can all probably relate to some of the things I'm going to say on that. Why I chose microlights. It wasn't just on cost. What is a microlight? Because I think you'd actually be quite surprised now with some new regulations that have come in. What is a microlight? Learning to fly, the actual syllabus and going through that, which I know, Walter, you're doing at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you're in the middle of it, learning 3-axis. You're already a flex wing, you were saying. So, yeah, so you'll be going through this at the moment. And the cost to learn, I mean, I'm going to be quite open about the cost because I think you'd be quite surprised that it's not as expensive. It's not cheap, but it's not as expensive as people may think. Purchase and share in an aircraft as well, which I have done. And that's really widened things out again. And then all the adventures that you can have beyond that and still having, and I've got planned to do. And then just something at the end about safety that is quite sort of, I don't know, it's something that I think everybody needs to think about that flies paragliders. The skies are busy and we need to really think about it. So, a bit about me. If you don't know me, there might be a couple in the room that don't. Been flying paragliders since '97, 600 plus hours. Stayed pretty static over the last sort of 10 years to about probably 10 hours a year, mainly because of family. There we go, married 2 children, one age 9, 10, and other hobbies, i.e. this, mountain biking, other stuff, and it's just kept my paragliding hours low, but I've not run away from aviation. I've sort of gone sort of more towards sort of flying the microlights. And I'm also sites officer for the club as well, so yeah, if there's ever an incident, you know where to come, and I'll go and sort things out. So I obtained my microlight pilot's license in January 2020, just before the pandemic, which is a bit of a pain in the arse, but yeah, I'm glad I got it in when I did. So where did it all start? I mean, for me, I'm from Worsley, so we always had Manchester Airport, all the aircraft on the flight path, and also Barton Aerodrome, where I ended up ultimately learning to fly the microlights, and that was really close by. And if you ever looked at my bedroom when I was younger, it would have the 1980s Lamborghini Countach in white on the wall, and then everywhere else had just aircraft pictures. And my mum and dad just knew I wanted to fly aircraft. But there was one problem, and I'll come on to that in a bit. So it's taken about 40 plus years, because I'm 48 now, to realise sort of the dream of flying aircraft. So, previous GA experience, so 18th birthday, I had a lesson in a PA-38 from Manchester Airport, and it was actually at the international airport. It was on the south side, and yeah, it was actually in this particular aircraft, and the guy we took off, ended up over near Chorley and Angleside reservoirs, and we're doing some sort of manoeuvres, and he turns to me and says, "How are you feeling?" I said, "Oh, yeah, I'm all right." He says, "Let's see what this baby can do." And then he starts doing aerobatics in it, and he's doing loops, stall turns, you name it. Since I've got my licence, I've then read up on the pilot's operating handbook. It's not certified for aerobatics. And I was just like, Jesus. And I wondered why when I got back to the airport. I said to him, "Oh, we did aerobatics," and he was like that. So, but it's not put me off. Not put me off at all. Obviously, you know, paragliding's GA. I got my EP and CP around 97, 98. Learned with lakes paragliding, no longer running now, I don't think. It may be the sort of sister to Northern Paragliding, Ian Brown. And we were learning the lakes and the dales. And yeah, as I say, I've got about 600 plus hours, but that dropped off a cliff when the family arrived. And yeah, but as they get older, it will start coming back up again. There we go. That'd be Graham in the front, Graham Hobson at St Michael's. So I had a 1 hour microlight lesson in 2002 in a flex wing, which was great. We took off from there, went over Parlock. Everyone was sat on the hill, so like looking down. It was a really still wind day, and it was just like quite gratifying to be looking down on everybody and that. But yeah, but he didn't float the boat. Although Walter, I know that you've done it, but
yeah, I thought it would.
Yeah, just didn't float the boat. That did. The missus bought me a 1 hour flying lesson out of Blackpool, and it was out of this world. It was ace, John. It was brilliant, and we took off from there. Went over to Pennine Sands, landed on the beach, did 100 foot down the beach, doing like 90 knots, and then came back and did a load of hovering practice. Fantastic. Cost of that, way out my league. So yeah, but what a great experience. And I would say to anybody, go and get a lesson one. It'd be brilliant. 2013, I went up to again. The missus keeps buying me this stuff. And I went up to the lakes, and I think, well, you're dead or something. But yeah, with Roger Savage and Gyrocopter, these are amazing. The absolute motorbike of the sky, really are. And I would get the licence in one of them at some point. They're just awesome bits of kit. And we went up for an hour, about 40 knot winds, and they can go up in anything. And we went over the weather. You can see it's a bit murky off into the lake, so we didn't go into the lakes. We went to Kirkbride, and I said, just put me through the paces, give me a lesson. So we did, and we were doing loads of touch and goes and stuff. And he says, right, I'll show you what it really can do. And he had it on its side, just doing all sorts of stuff. Brilliant. I would definitely have a look at that in the future. And then it comes down to more scratching the itch, as I put there. Button and bash, and just then going in stuff like this. I know there's a few in the room that have been up in this, John, Jim, and that. I've been in it quite a few times, and it was just one of those things. And it was like every time I went up, it was just like, oh, I need to fly. I need to fly something that's sort of got an engine on it. And then I did some work in South Africa, and I went for a week. And the only thing I paid for was a helicopter flight for 25 minutes all down the Cape Peninsula and over Cape Town. And I was just feeding my sort of urge to learn to fly. That week, and then the guy who was meeting over there, he says, oh, I've got a plane, I've got my pilot's licence. So we went up out of Johannesburg and went all round over the flats for a couple of hours and over Soweto. And it was just an amazing experience. And I was just like, and he just turns to me and says, you've always wanted to fly, haven't you? And I was like, yeah. And he says, come on, get your licence. I was like, yeah, I know. And I gave every excuse that I could not to do it. And then Paul Assel got his licence, and Paul's gone on to bigger things now. He's now flying commercial, but he sort of rang me up and said, come on, you're coming out. So he says, right, where do you want to go? And I just mapped a route out. And he was expecting to go up for an hour. We were up for 3 hours, and I was just like, come on, let's go everywhere. And we just split the cost on it, and it was great. And that was June 2018. And then that was straight after. It was a case of doing that. And took the missus out and I warmed her up and said, I really want to fly. I said, I just don't feel fulfilled. I just need. And sure enough, she said, crack on, go and speak to the airfield. So I did a little bit more research. I think it was one evening, and then I went straight down to Barton, just down the road in Manchester. And I'd already been doing a load of research, and I went to see Pennine microlights, and had a chat with them. Before I knew it, I booked onto my first lesson within about 10 minutes of being there, and I was booked in for the following week, and then he just went on from there. So I mean, just then talking about sort of main air microlights, so they're based at Manchester Barton, down near Trafford Centre. They've got 5 aircraft, which all comes in port where you go to learn. So I've got 3 Icarus C-42s, which is this one, and that's what I learned on. And then they've got 2 EV-97s, which are the low wing. 2 instructors, stroke examiners, and the licence that I've got is an NPPL, which is National Private Pilot's Licence. So it's a national licence, but you can still fly abroad on it. So there's some agreements with various countries. And I started my training in August 2018. It was actually the day, it was the 11th of August, and it was the day that Phil and Rona had their accident. Yeah, because I heard the helicopter go off on the radio. And so...
Got lights out.
No, that's the landing light. That's a little air vent.
Not the machine gun.
So yeah,
Not the machine gun.
no, yeah, it should be. So why Manchester, Barton, and Main Air? So it's a really busy airfield. It's GA. It has commercial over here in terms of helicopters. So it's got loads of helicopter operations. It's got police helicopter to air ambulance. So whenever we call the air ambulance out, it's generally coming from here or Blackpool. And they usually get to the hill in about 15 minutes from here. And it's just airspace. Oops, yeah. So it's got airspace. If you look along there, and if I was to go like that, that's sort of Manchester's airspace, just the other side of the river. So it's quite challenging, and a lot of people that don't fly in these types of airfields don't want to come to it because they feel it's going to be too challenging. And actually learning there, it means that you can pretty much go anywhere and you're comfortable being around sort of complex airspace. Because you're flying around at 1,800 feet, but at 2,000 feet is the approach into Manchester. So there's a lot of aircraft. They're not coming down to 2,000 feet, but if you pop your head into there, you get a right bollocking off the CAA and you have to start diverting flights and that. Good aircraft and instructor availability. Marcus, who was my main instructor, he's an ex-paraglider pilot, albeit he learned with Mark, Tony Delaney, yeah, and never carried it on much further after that, after his experience with him. And they have a really good reputation. And they do ground school as well, because a lot of schools, what they'll do, they'll say, all right, you've got a lot of exams to do, and they won't do, like doing the revision sessions for the pilot exams, they just leave you to it in books, and it's like, they actually did ground school, it's like 30 quid for an hour, ground school, and then you could do the exam afterwards. And it was like, brilliant, bingo, get it all done and dusted, and then you can just concentrate on the flying bit. And it's close to home, close-ish to home. Why did I choose 3-axis microlighting? So, right, here's a test. Can anybody see that? Anybody not see the number in it? Or is it just me?
It's not the clearest.
Right. I'm regular and colourblind, and I've known that since being a kid. So I'd never be able to get a class 1 or 2 medical on colourblindness to be able to fly commercial, and I always wanted to as a kid, but I couldn't. So it was like, so I'm unable to fly at night, I can't get instrument ratings or anything like that, so it's almost like, what's the point in doing everything? I'm stuck to sort of daytime VFR flying, so there was just no real point. The cost side of it, I'm going to tell you the cost of stuff, because I think you'd be quite surprised. It's not as expensive as you think. It is one of the cheapest forms of power flight, aside from paramotoring, and maybe sub-70. So the cost of a 1-hour microlight lesson is about 2/3 of the cost of what it would be in the equivalent sort of your Piper, your Cessna, as they call them, the spam cans, that's like 40, 50-year-old aircraft. The Rotax powered, so the engines in them are pretty efficient. They run on MoGas, which is motor gas, but they use E5, so it's Super Plus, unleaded. And you just go down to the local garage, get your jerry cans, fill them up, and then just pump it into the aircraft. So you're paying, at the moment, £1.50 a litre, whereas if you run avgas, which the aircraft that we do fly can take it, you could be paying £2, £2.40 a litre. It's whatever the airfields sort of charge. So it's pretty efficient. They only burn 11 to 13 litres an hour as well. Certainly the engines that I'm flying, whereas your Piper or Cessna equivalent is probably more 13 gallons an hour. So you've got higher cost and higher consumption. So it's a massive difference. And maintenance costs, if you own one or have a share of one, it's much lower because you can do a lot of it yourself. And the ability to just own or share an aircraft, it's real. It really is, because they are affordable. The other stuff, capability. So I did a load of research, and when I say research, it's going on YouTube, looking at sort of like a load of YouTube videos and really feeding my need. Rory, he's a local guy. He learnt where I learnt on the same or similar aircraft that I've got, and yeah, really good pilot. He puts loads of videos out, and you can sort of see the real sort of touring capability of these things and the versatility of them. And then you've got the other side, on the other side of the Atlantic, so like Trent Palmer. A lot of these guys are doing a lot of sort of stole stuff, going out into the bush and landing and going camping, all sorts of stuff. And that's sort of like the kind of thing I want to do. And these sort of like, there's over 1,000 private airstrips all around the country that you can fly into. You have to phone them up, get permission, but you can go and fly into them. And they'll let you camp and stuff like that. So it's a bit of an adventure more than anything. There are limitations, only 2 seats, so you are limited to 2 seats. The useful load, and I've put in brackets there, 450 kilograms maximum takeoff weight. When you've got full tanks in a microlight that's 450 kilograms, you can't take much luggage with you. So particularly if you've got 2 people in it. But there's a ... on it, and you'll see why soon. Speed is generally below 100 knots, so you are going slower, and when you've got a good headwind, you're going really slow. But having said that, you're spending more time flying, so it sort of pays the other way. Non-aerobatic, you don't do aerobatics in these things. I have seen one of these do aerobatics, and it's quite scary to see it, but you don't. You're not allowed to. And currently your hours can't count to your full PPL. So I said I've got national pirate pilots. You can't count your hours to that. They can count their hours though by flying microlights now. It's just been allowed. So maybe over time, maybe you could then. There was a route through, but they kiboshed that back in 2018, just as I was starting to fly. And as I said earlier, it's a UK licence, but you can fly abroad on it because there are agreements. So you can fly in France, Germany, all the Eastern Europe, all the way through Spain. So it's national licence, but you can still fly abroad. So what is a microlight? And this might surprise you a little bit. And there are further categories in there, but I just sort of pulled out the couple of the main ones. So, as I say, no more than two passengers, two people. It was maximum takeoff weight, not exceeding 450 kilograms, with a stalling speed at max weight of 45 knots or less. But then, in 2021, I always remember my instructor saying to me, this is the license to have. They brought in 600k microlights, light sport microlights, which has really changed sort of, the types of microlights you can get, but actually got a lot more payload in it now. So they're real tourers. And that's really coming to its own now when you see some of the microlights that are coming through. So again, either for single seat, 2 seat, 600 kilograms, again, stall speed, same detail on it. So, microlight. This is classed as a microlight, paratrike. There's only, I was looking the other day, there's only 16 of them registered in the country. And they're a bit difficult because Ozone have just done a wing and a trike together. And because of the way that they certify them, you can't put a different wing on a different trike. It's all got to the same thing. So, and the development of them, it's going to be slow. So I don't think we're going to see many of these things, you know, in the near future, really. Typical flex wing microlight. So, Walter, this is. What did you have?
A GT 450.
Oh right, yeah. This is a Pegasus Quick. This is one of the school aircraft over at Barton, and you know it's your typical what you would class as a microlight, what everybody sort of knew as being a microlight.
Looks cold.
Yeah. But funny enough, I went out a couple of weeks ago and I'm there, I'm getting in hours and it's got heating, you know. I was like, I'm taking my jumper off and the two came out like this, like marshmallow men. And I was just like, oh, yeah. So it is a bit cold. So, yeah. This is what I learned. I did some of the lessons on this aircraft, but mainly the one I'm sat in when I took this photograph. Icarus C-42, pretty much conventional aircraft, really. Conventional controls, you know, rudder, aileron, and the like, and elevators. So it's just a normal aircraft. It's just light away. Here's some examples of them, and there is a big, you know, huge variety of sort of shapes, sizes, cost, you name it. Cyclone AX3. You might have seen this in the hangar at Rossall.
There is one there.
Yeah, so it was Dan's. And I actually flew this.
I think Dan's still great, actually.
I think he's just sold it.
Oh, right.
Yeah, but he's been a bit of a hangar queen at the moment. This is proper grassroots flying. It was actually developed in America by NASA scientists back in the late 80s, early 90s, I think it was. And Danny who owns it, he's actually written a book about the development of it. Does everything at like 50 miles an hour. It's, go on.
Calvert used to talk, well, the thrusters are very similar
It
design.
is, yeah.
And Calvert used to laugh about it because he says that if you go flat out on the engine, point the nose at the ground,
Yeah.
it was so draggy you still couldn't get to VNE.
No, you can. It just does everything at 50. It's just everything. It's just. I mean, it was great. We went up on an evening and it was just a bimble, and it's great for just bimbling round. And when we took off, I was saying, "Oh, this is proper grassroots," and we throttled it up, and the grass had just been cut, and it just all came up through. It's like they sat in a go-kart, and all the grass just came up into the cockpit. It was just like, it was brilliant. So. This is the aircraft that I did probably the majority of my flying, so again, we talked about that. It's a Icarus C-42A. They're now up to the C model, whereby it's got a greater weight on it. But look at the endurance, 4.5 hours that you can get doing 80 odd knots. So they really are, you can tour in these things. EV97, so again, Main Air have got, these are the others, aircraft that they've got, two of them. Great aircraft, and it's what ultimately I've got a share in one of these. All aluminium, lightweight aluminium, see the wings ripple as you're flying. But just great aircraft. And they cruise at 90 to 100 mile an hour, and again, similar endurance. It costs 45 grand second hand, they hold the price. But if you're in a group, obviously you're just buying into that. So yeah, this is one you'll recognise, Walter. A Euro Fox. So this is James up at Rossall Field. These are great, these are lovely. You can get them in nose wheel or tail wheel. And there's a couple up there, isn't there? I think. But yeah, lovely aircraft, and this isn't James's cockpit, but you can get it all now with all glass cockpits and all that. So it's just great machines, and you'll be talking about probably 75k for one of those, and they're approved up to 560. So 560, you know, I said about France. you can fly in France, but if you've got 600k microlight, you can't fly into France because they've only allowed it up to 560. So a few manufacturers have stuck it down at 560 so that people can go into France. So if you've got 600k one, you're stuck until France changes their mind, which isn't likely because the French. TL Sting, this is another light sport one, 600 kilograms, about 100k plus VAT. Pete Romfeld,
Oh yeah.
yeah, he imports these.
Really?
So yeah. So he's a Sting importer. But again, look at the cruise speed, 95 to 135 knots, depending which engine, because there's multiple engines.
What is Pete based now then?
Around Charlie somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, they're still going.
Can you get them as business expense?
Ooh, I don't know. See your tax man on that one.
I did see a lot of, I was flying over Charlie, mate, on Paragliding, and I saw a lot of planes coming up. And I thought, I need to get out of this area because there's a lot of...
Well, I come on to that in a bit. That's my little safety bit at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Paragliding,
Yeah. The Velis Electro, I think they've got one of these at Wharton. It's electric. 200k though, and it's only got an endurance of 50 minutes. I actually sat in one of these at some exhibition and I said to the guy, I said, 50 minutes? He says, it's great for lessons. I said, what about when you need to do more than that, like you're qualifying cross countries? Oh, we stick them in the
Diesel.
the diesel or the petrol one. And it's like, oh no. Yeah, so they're a bit limited at the moment, but you know, electric aircraft, they will come. They will come. The charging infrastructure, just like the cars, isn't there. So, and then there's this one, the Shark Aero. That's a beast. That is, it's not certified in the UK yet, but it's cruise speed, 135 knots, retractable undercarriage, and it's just, so Zara Rutherford, she's half British, half Belgian, and she's just become the youngest person to fly solo around the world. So not in a microlight, she's done it in a microlight, but she's the youngest person to fly solo, and then her brother did it in the same microlight a number of months later. These are real machines. And again, glass cockpit, you name it. So, microlights, they're not what everybody used to think they were.
Well, they've got £250,000 there though.
Say again?
£250,000.
£250,000 for a microlight.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, getting on to the learning to fly bit. So this is the bit that you're going through at the moment, Walter. So, as I say, it was an NPPL, National Private Pilots Microlight rating. You can do it with operational limitations or without operational. I did it without. The operational limitations are that you do less hours, you can't go any more than 8 miles away from the airfield, and you can't take any passengers, and you've got to stay absolutely clear of cloud. And it's just, if somebody wants to do it a bit cheaper, and then they can then just do a bit of consolidation and that. But yeah, I don't know why you would do that. So I did it without, which was just a full license. With that, your minimum hours of instruction is 25 hours. Is 25 hours realistic? With most people, I'd say no. What they say is it's your age plus about a third, which worked out about right for me. You're just not going to get it in 25 hours. I don't know what Jack did, because Jack's recently he did it in 2 weeks. I don't know how many hours he did it in, but again, it's, if you can do it in tens, great. I was doing it a lesson a week with breaks for holidays, winter, and or not winter, weather and stuff like that. So yeah, but out of those 25 hours, 10 of those need to be solo. And out of those 10 solo, 5 of them need to be navigation solo. Hold on. Yeah, and then your minimum solo navigation is 3 hours to gain your license. So a lot to take in there. And then you've got to do your driving test at the end. So a GST, general skills test. And all the syllabus is just working up to that GST at the end. You have to do an oral exam as part of your GST as well, about knowledge of the aircraft and systems on it, and you know, checks that you need to do, and all that kind of good stuff. And then you've got theory exams. Funny enough, they're very similar to the pilot exams. So Met, Nav, Air Law, so it's all very similar. Human factors, I don't think we do it now. And then aircraft technical, which we don't really do in paragliding. And then it's not mandatory, but radio telephony license, but they make it mandatory because of where we're training. And then for a medical, if you can drive a car and you're certified under the DVLA to drive a car, you can do this. Obviously, if your health changes, you then need to declare it, and then so yeah, but you're not having to get a full on medical. So the lesson structure's sort of like 2 hour slot. Flight briefing, 10 or 15 minutes. You might do some of it beforehand at home. When you start off, the instructors will be very much doing everything, and then it very quickly turns around to more your decision making and they'll sort of message you in the morning and go, "What are you thinking of the weather?" And I'll be like, "No, I need to go look at the weather and really have a look into it." You can't just rely on them, and the testing and making sure you're making the right decisions. And it goes the same throughout, and the more lessons that you're doing and the more activities that you're doing, the less reliance on the instructor you've got, and they almost just sit there and just clip you around the ear and correct you for when you do things wrong, which is quite often. And then safety checks, walking around the aircraft, making sure the engine's still in place. They generally do all the daily checks, but you do have to go around and make sure everything's in the right place. And then your flying tasks, 45 to 60 minutes, depending what you're doing. If you're doing nav tasks, you're near 60. But if you're just doing general handling near the trolley area, it's about 45 minutes that you'd be in the air. And then there's debrief and logbook, filling in at the end. The manoeuvring area.
Question. This the 25 hours or
Yeah.
whatever you get in actual real life experience. Is it the flying only or the whole 2 hours?
It's whatever you log in your.
It's the flying
Yeah.
only.
So what we logged was as soon as you sit in the aircraft and start the engine, you are logging your hours. So that's how you do it when you're learning. And yeah. So until the point where you turn the engine off, that's your hours. So yes, the manoeuvring area. You know, you were saying that you're over there, Charlie, and all that, and there's lots of aircraft. Got very busy, that's why. So, obviously got Manchester Airport there, and there's the airspace that was on about earlier. And then there's Manchester Barton. And generally you're flying out, so you go to Junction 4 of the M61, Hulton Industrial, over to, we call it Middlebrook Stadium because it keeps changing its name, but Bolton Stadium. And then this is where you've got probably 5 or 6 schools teaching, whether it's...
Soon taking off.
Yeah. And they're all doing the general handling. So you'll have people just buzzing around doing just, straight and level, but then you'll be doing all sorts of stuff. There'll be, generally not aerobatics, but certainly they'll be doing sort of some extreme manoeuvres, stalls and stuff like that. So it's a very busy area, that, and I've often wondered, like, when you do fly off here, that the chances of being...
It was sort of level with me.
Yeah.
You weren't higher or...
No.
It was pretty...
Yeah, exactly. So it's so busy, that area.
Do your instruments show any paragliders?
Yes. So I'm going to come on to that in a bit. I have a gadget, which is my iPad, in the plane with an app called Sky Demon, and we've got gadgets in the plane that it feeds through so we can see aircraft, and it does pick up paragliders if they've got flam on, because we've got pilot aware, and it's all cabled into the aircraft, so it's got aerials underneath, so it really does pick it up. But I'll pick up on that in a bit. Oops. There we go. So, actually, syllabus, I'm not going to go through everything on here because you'd be here all day, but it goes through 7 phases. And basically, the first phase is just familiarisation of the aircraft. You know, preparing for flight. The first time you get in it is your air experience flight. So you go in, instructor will take you around it, show you all the checks that you need to do, get you strapped in. You know how to unbuckle. Just all the simple things that you just need to know. Take you through the controls. He'll then get you to taxi, and when I first taxied, I'm there trying to steer it with a stick, and it's like, no, you do it with your feet. It's like, right, yeah. They just let you make the mistakes, because if you make the mistakes, that's how you learn, and when they put you right. Straight level flight. So this is something that you'll do very, very, you know, probably it's the first time that you go up, but it's something that you learn very quickly, and then you will then just keep doing it every lesson that you go out. You just repeating the same thing, same as climbing, descending. They teach you how to put the power in, when to put the power in, when to take it off, so that not only are you being efficient, but also if you've got passengers, it's actually comfortable for them. If you do things in the wrong order, like nose drops, and it's like, so it's just getting you. It's about accuracy, really. And then 30-degree turns and stuff like that, and just making sure that you're staying on the, you know, and getting you to go into it, come out on a head in, and again, it's just all about accuracy. You very quickly get into slow flight and stalling, because it's very important. What I've found is that it's all about safety, and it's all about what happens if the spinny thing on the front stops, where you're going to land, what you're going to do, what you're going to do with the nose. So, you know, probably second or third lesson was stalling an aircraft, and I've installed Paragliding many times. I was like, oh shit, they're actually really benign. And so, you know, you're going along, you know, you'll do it with power on, power off, you'll do it with flaps off, flaps fully on, and you'll be holding it, and all it'll do, it'll just go. And you'll just feel it go mushy, and you'll just see the needle go down. And then it'll do that, and then the nose will just drop, about that, and then you just pull off the power, or if you've got power on, pull off the power, sort of brake dive, and then apply power. And up you go, and you're like, is that it? Because when I've ever done it in a paraglide, it's horrendous, hate it. So yeah, so doing all that. Spin awareness, they get you to the point of spin, a bit like they do on the SIV. They don't spin you, but they get you to the point of spin. They will do that, but they stopped doing spin training in about 2014 because too many people were hitting the deck and not being able to pull out of the spin, or the aircraft were breaking up. So they don't, it's only spin awareness that they do. Phase 3, take off, climb, downwind, so bashing the circuit. God, the circuit bashing that you do is unbelievable. How many times have I looped around that airfield? But it's all about getting you used to being in a busy airfield environment, how to join, how to downwind, doing all the calls on the radio, and just being as precise as you can on it. You know, somebody piles in on the runway, which has happened to me while I was doing some solo stuff. Somebody piled in on the runway, and I had to go round, and I then had to just disappear off for an hour and just do some general handling on my own, whilst they cleared the runway of the debris. He was fine, by the way. Advanced turns, so 60-degree banks, quite a bit 60-degree in an aircraft, and yeah, you really do feel the G in it. Can't remember, is it plus 4G? I think the aircraft that I fly is certified to, and I think -2. So yeah, it's you can pull some G in it, and it does feel quite uncomfortable. And then I actually enjoyed this one, unusual and dangerous attitude. So this is just simulating, you know, a thermal coming through and lifting your wing up, and all of a sudden the nose of the aircraft ends up like that, and then you've then got to sort it out and react properly. So what he does, he says, right, follow me through all the controls. So you're holding the stick, and then he'll sort of put the nose down, pull it back, and put it into an angle like that, and he'll just say, recover. And you've got to then react and then bring it round and back into a safe attitude without stalling. So, and you do loads of that. But yeah, it was quite enjoyable that. And one of the things he did do, he said to me, he says, you're over controlling it. He says, right, do this. He says, right, we're going to hold on now. So we put it into the unusuality. He said, don't touch a thing. So it's a bit like a paraglider really. He says, just hold on. And he went, oh, like that. And he went, and it just trimmed out and started flying straight. So it was like, if you've got enough height, don't touch the controls and it'll right itself. The designs of them now are just phenomenal. And then forced landings, like I say, there's a lot of forced landings. And as you get near solo, you can tell that you're getting near solo because they are, every time that you put the throttle on and you're taking off, it's failed. So they just pull the throttle back. What are you going to do? And you've got to land straight ahead, or you'll be in the circuit or out somewhere and they'll go, right, engine's failed, where are you landing? And you then have to then simulate going down, and then at 500 feet you'll then say, right, you've got the power back, off you go, and they're just constantly hammering with that. So first solo comes round eventually. You know, for me it was, what is it? That's it at the bottom, 22 hours and 55 minutes I think it was. You know, bearing in mind 25 hours, 22 hours I was before I went solo. Some people do it sooner, they will. But yeah, it's, you're doing all these exercises and you're just continually doing them. So just, this is obviously section of my logbook. So PUT is pilot under tuition, and then when it becomes P1, you've got self in there, that's when I'm now doing my solo stuff. So on that, I've done a load of exercise, done about half an hour, 40 minutes with him, and he's there failing everything and that, making sure that I'd you know, full awareness of what was going on and what I could, if anything failed, that I could deal with it. And then he says, right, I says, on this one, he said, go to the north of the tower. He says, I'm going to jump out and go and have a cup of coffee. He says, I want you to do one circuit and come back in. And anyway, he did, and he went off and he stood at the tower and filmed me. So, there we go.
But not in radio contact.
No. All they tell you to do is have your call sign as student pilot with the registration, so that the tower know. He will have told the tower, so they know it's that. So you get basically priority of the circuit. If anything goes wrong, they'll just clear everybody out just to get you down. If the shit hits the fan. But is this going to work? Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, come on. So it's going to struggle. Yeah, it's. Oh, there we go. So yeah, this is me coming in now. I get 2 landings for the price of one. Because it was a really floaty day. And yeah. Oh, there we go. There's one. Yeah. Yeah.
What sort of speed are you landing at?
You're coming in, so you're generally on the approach at 70, then you're 70 knots,
Right.
then you reduce it down to 60, 62 is for that aircraft, and then as you go over the threshold of the runway, you're then knocking the power right off, and it would stall at 45, but you are getting into that position of stall, you know, so 40 mile an hour maybe when you're landing. Yeah, and it's funny, you know, being a paraglide pilot and doing your first solo, everybody goes on about how it's really weird, you're in the aircraft and you're on your own, and I'm thinking, a little bit of me was like, well, I fly on my own anyway, so it wasn't anything, you know, I wasn't intimidated by it, but it was a bit weird because you are in there and you're used to somebody being sat to the right of you, and it's quite a lot darker in the cockpit, and yeah, and there isn't anybody there, and you sort of look across and go, oh shit, as you're going sort of downwind. And then yeah, it's great. You then get on the ground, they'll radio you from the tower and say, oh, well done. You go up into the tower, you go get a certificate. So it was Good Friday, yeah. So yeah, 19th of April when I did, and they do make a big thing of it because it is quite an achievement. And And then solo navigation. So once you've done your solo, you don't just then start going straight out circuit and doing loads of stuff. You are still way under, doing all these exercises. So as I said earlier, pilot tuition. So I've done my solo, but I'm still pilot tuition. I'm still going up with the instructor, but then I'm doing bits of stuff on my own as well, and that. So you'll do some local navigation. You don't use the gadgets and the sat nav, as it were, Sky Demon. Everything's done with measuring it off, putting it on a map, and doing wind calculations and all that. Is it still like that now? Do you know?
No, I think they let you use Sky.
I think they let you use it now, but when I did it, I think it changed literally as I got my licence, and I think they changed it. But yeah, I had to do everything by wind calc, so I was always wrong. Never got it right. Never did. So yeah, and then so these are all sort of so via Middlebrook Stadium, via Southport, Burscough, and all that, and yeah, it's all good fun. So my first solo navigation actually was to Blackpool. So out from Manchester over to Stadium, over to Southport, across to St Anne's Pier, and then you call up Blackpool when you're at Southport, and they'll give you instructions to come in and land. And you go and land there, they certify it, and then you then go, oh shit, I've got to find my way back now and navigate myself off the airport. And then, as I say, this just carries on and on and on. So you can see it's like P1, pilot tuition P1. So I'm 50 hours and I'm still pilot tuition, so I'm still having the instructor. So we're doing, so we did some dual navigation there for what was then going to do solo. So it just carries on and on. And then, hey, there we go. So on the 16th of November 2019, I did my GST. So we went out into that manoeuvring area and went through absolutely everything. You get it right, you get pummeled on it, and you come out the end of it and you are...
Is this your driving test?
Yeah.
Do you still have to fly with instructors occasionally?
Yes. Yeah, you do. So I'll come on to that. So yeah, and it's... I forgot what PIS is. So he goes, P1, it's actually P1 supervised. Yeah, so you're in charge of it, you're pilot in command, but you're being supervised during your GST.
And is it your instructor that does that, or is it an independent?
In this case, it was my instructor because he's an examiner. If he's not an examiner, so this is one of the things as well. If you go to a school somewhere else where they're an instructor but an examiner, you can then wait weeks to try and get hold of an examiner to come over, whereas these guys can do it. But they really sort of drum it into you. And I'm so glad I did it where I did. I mean, where you're learning with James, he's bomb-proof as well. He's got some really good schools in this area. So there's Marcus. Don't know whether people might recognise him actually. Being an ex-paraglider pilot. But yeah, so 16th of November, I passed. But that wasn't me then getting my licence. I still had to do one last solo navigation, and that was over to Ince. So just out to Middlebrook and then over just south of Woodvale. There's a little airfield, microlight field there. I went there, there'd been weeks and weeks of really crappy weather, a bit like it is now. And I even phoned Wharton up and asked them, I said, any chance I can do it with you? And they went, are you a student? No, you can't. Come, give us a ring when you're qualified and we'll let you in. So I just had to wait, and I did a few more hours just flying around just to keep myself in, and then eventually I did my final bit on the 3rd of Jan, and then it was a case of fill out the paperwork, which again at the school they helped me fill it all out because it's really complicated. It's a pain in the ass when you send it in and it's wrong. And 4 days later, the BMAA got my licence back to me. So it meant I was then able to fly. And that was great. Whereas the CAA, who do all the sort of bigger GA aircraft, 3-4 months. It's been really bad for them. But 4 days for the BMAA, absolutely fantastic. So it meant, you can see there. So yeah, I was actually the first licence in 2020 to be issued that year. So it is for life, your licence, but you need to revalidate it every 24 months, which I've just done actually. For me, it was just a signature because I've done everything that I needed to do. So to validate your licence, you need to be pilot in command minimum 12 hours in that 24-month period. And one of those hours has to be with an instructor under training. And it's really useful that, because a load of really bad habits creep in, and you do fly differently when you're next to an instructor. And you come out of that and you just go, shit, I did really crap there. Because they're correcting you on stuff, and it's not because they're just trying to be picky. I suppose they are, but they're trying to correct things that just have come in over time. So minimum of those 6 hours must be in the last 12 months leading up to having to get the renewal. And you need to have done 12 takeoffs and landings. For me, that's not a problem. I'm doing so many hours, it really doesn't matter. But for some people, that is a bit of a problem. If you don't do that, I think you have to do a GST again. If you fully lapse, or you certainly have to do further training, and then you may have to do a GST again. And then just the other one that is mandatory is if you're going to carry passengers, you need to have done 3 takeoffs and full stop landings in the last 90 days. So if you've lapsed beyond that, you then have to go out on your own and go and do some circuit bashing. The only time I've had to do that, bloody COVID, because of course March time we all got locked down, didn't we? So luckily we could still fly, which was great. So I was still able to hire aircraft and go out, but it cost me a bloody fortune because I could only take people from my household. Of course, the only person I could take, or people I could take, were my 2 kids. So they were loving it, and they've both got logbooks, just passenger logbooks now. My lad's got 25 hours flying, and my daughter's got 12. Yeah. So 63 hours, 20 minutes. I could have probably done it in a little bit less than that, but with weather and stuff like that. But yeah, 47 of that was dual, and then 15 hours. Just over 15 hours was solo. 5 theory exams passed, as I said. You did the ground school, brilliant. And then you did that, and then did the exam straight afterwards. And then 1 radio telephony licence as well. So you had to do a course for that, and then do a live, sort of have your instructor sat there giving you instruction, or giving you air traffic control sort of instruction, and then you have to respond in the right way. It's a bit intense, really. And I got told off by him for thanking him for his service when I went through some controlled airspace on the simulator thing. And I said, "Oh, thanks very much for the service." He said, "You don't need to do that in your exam." I was like, "Fucking hell." And so lots of blood, sweat, and tears. There wasn't really, but it was more when I got home, and it'd be like, Mrs. would say, "Oh, you've been out all morning. There's the kids," and all I needed to do was just decompress. And I was just like, I could just done with a little bit more time, because it was pretty intense. Total cost. So I logged absolutely everything. I even logged my fuel from home in the car, every pen, every book, every course, and everything. And the total came to $8.5 grand.
Wow.
I know.
That's a lot cheaper than I was expecting.
I know. Yeah. And if you do it in less hours, that's me doing it in 63. If you were to do it in, say, 40, 45.
That's in the 5 years you've been doing it.
Well, no,
license.
that was the
That's
that's
the
to
license,
get the license. Yeah. So it's not, and that's my point. It's not that.
If you
That
could do
bad.
it 25, do you have that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, it probably wouldn't be hard because you've still got to get the exercise, and you've still got to do the landings and all that. So all that costs and the
you
touch and
pay
go.
for each landing.
You don't. You're allowed one landing in. So with main air, you one landing is included within the lesson. But if you do multiple landings or touch and goes, they have a discounted rate, but it's like £3.50 a touch and go. So you, honestly, it racks up when you do 8 or 9 touch and goes in a lesson. You're adding like 40 quid onto your lesson. Oh, no.
What about that one that you landed?
Well, yeah, that one. That's what I mean. I got that one for free. So, did previous paragliding experience help? Yeah, no, I absolutely think it did. I really do. I wasn't overwhelmed by things like, is this thing going to keep me in the air? When you've flown a bag of washing for long enough and you know that it's what it can do, you think, well, these things are, they're pretty good. So the fear bit wasn't there. It was just really about just getting on with the learning. Stalls, how bad can it be? When you stall the paraglider, there's nothing can be as horrendous as that if, stalling another aircraft. First solo, like I said earlier, I was used to flying on my own, so I wasn't too intimidated by that. And some of the theory exams very similar to the paragliding pilot exams and that theory. And of course was dialed into the weather, very much so. So I would find opportunities to fly where people would go, like one of my co-owners of the aircraft, he had 120 lessons cancelled. I think I had 7. And it was all to do with weather. And I would look at it and I'd go, right, I'm going to go that particular day because I can see it and I book it on the system. And then I'd be like, I might have 1 or 2 that might not. But I was able to get those weather opportunities. And yeah, I'm nearly done on this section. We can have a bit of a break then. Because I'm then going to just go through sort of purchase the aircraft. But how much does it compare with all the other disciplines? You ready, John? John talked to me a couple of weeks ago, that's why I keep saying it, about maybe doing something along these lines, but you mentioned helicopter, didn't you? Well, yeah. So I put it as 7.5 to 9k, just as an average. Now these are pretty current figures because one of the magazines has just done, each month they've done a section on microlight, then doing your PPLA, 11 to 13-ish, but it really depends where you go, because they might include landing fees, they might not include landing fees. There's a whole load of research that you need to do if you were to go into any of them really. Gyrocopter, similar price because you then still, so PPLA you're doing 45 hours minimum, and same with gyrocopter, you're doing 45 hours as well. I think it's 45. Yeah. So again, about 11 to 13k.
Was it? What is it? Gyrocopter?
That's the. Do you see the one at the start? It was a silver one with with the
Oh.
auto gyro
Yeah.
thing with the like tandem with like a blade on rotor on the top.
Powered rotor.
And then helicopter.
Oh.
Yeah. These are current costs depending where you learn 25 to 30k, and that's just for your PPL. And what people forget is you get your license, and then you want to fly. Well, you're paying 400 quid an hour to hire a helicopter,
Yeah, you need to stay current.
and you need to stay current.
And
So
could
it's
you buy
like,
into a helicopter as well, syndicate?
would I?
No, could you? If you were
Oh yeah, but there's not that many of them around that are syndicates.
Right.
To be honest, they're either private or commercial. Yeah, so it's you get people that will do that because they're going to go on commercial. And same with this. I would question a lot of people that would go into this if they're not going to go commercial because they need to be flying these things in our building to go that route. But if it's not, these aircraft are just great now. So
Does the guy
Yeah.
know with his PPL when he started doing towing, like towing gliders?
Yeah.
Can he build up
Yeah.
his hours and
Yeah, so that Eurofox, the sort of bluey, purpley one, they have that, that doesn't, but that can tow gliders and that, so they often use those. So yeah, do we want a break for 10 minutes and then come back?
Yeah.
And then what I'm going to do is just go through sort of some of the stuff beyond the licence, getting the share in the plane, and then just some of the adventures that been on, just some photographs and stuff like that, and there's a couple of videos on there. So,
Excellent.
all right.
Thank you.
Hopefully I'm not boring everyone. So, you get your licence, what next? So, down at Main Air and most schools, you can self-hire from there. These are the costs that I was paying. I think it's gone up quite a bit since then because of fuel costs. So, you're paying £35 a month into just a pot. It's non-equity, so you don't own any of the aircraft. And you're not paying towards it, you're paying towards it. It's more like a club kind of thing, and then you're paying 75 hour with fuel per hour. So when you're going through COVID and you're needing to just fly and you can only take your kids, it gets bloody expensive because you can't cost share it with anybody. So difference in training, going on another aircraft, so I learned on this one, the high wing, and then I wanted to go on the other one, so is that. 10 hours post qualification. You can't carry passengers until you've done 10 hours. So get those hours in and then you can start taking people up. Just plan some trips to alternate airfields. Introduce friends to aviation, and I love doing this. It's always something that I wanted to do with paragliding, you know, get me tandem rating, and it's just never really feasible, really. It's never really worked. And I just love taking people up, particularly people that have never been up in the air before, other than being on a commercial plane. And then do further training. I did the strip skills course, which is going into farm strips and doing sort of like short takeoff landings and loads of those skills. Then you can do a tail wheel conversion as well, because it is apparently quite different. I've never done tail wheel, but it is quite different the way that the aircraft takes off, lands and that. So and then get sharing an aircraft. One thing I would say that was brilliant. I did it for about 18 months, but the availability of the aircraft when the school got busy was quite challenging sometimes, and you're stuck to time slots. So you can have it for a 2-hour slot, or you could book it for 4 hours, but then it's like you had to be back because there was somebody going out in it who was learning to fly, so it was restrictive. You couldn't just take it for a day, a weekend, a week, and that. So getting a share in aircraft is where I was sort of always aiming to get. So, and then fly further afield, fly abroad. And one of my co-owners, Pete, he's got about 1,000 hours now. Every year he goes to France and he takes it down to France, goes down around the Dordogne and all the wine regions, camps, and just does a week flying there, hoping the weather just stays nice for him.
Does he fly it there or can you trailer it?
But he flies it there.
Fly it,
It only takes 2 hours to the south coast, and then he clears customs, and then goes across to, I think it's Latuke or somewhere like that, goes in there, and then he's just then off.
Do you
So,
need any special licence to cross the channel?
No, but you have to put something called a GAR in, which is a general aviation something or other form. In fact, you have to do it to go to the Isle of Man, and it just tells you where you've taken off from, where you're going, and it's almost like a passport kind of check and all that. So yeah, so some stats, I've taken 30 plus friends and family flying since getting my licence. Youngest being 5-year-old, which was my daughter, and the oldest being my mum at 75. And it was great to take family up, particularly my mum, because she's seen how much I wanted to fly for many years, and then I managed to take her over the Lake District, which was brilliant to be able to do. I've now got 204 hours total time, just ticked over the 200-hour mark, which is good. That's total time including all my my lessons as well. 19 different airfields. I worked at off Skyding and the navigation app, 16,000 plus miles I've flown. A bit of a funny statistic that. 3 types, and then I purchased a share in one aircraft. So this is the first time. This is, in fact, Jim, he's coming up to 10 now, but he was 6 at the time, and he was my first passenger. So let's see if this works.
Is this in your
So this is in the school aircraft. So his reaction there when he saw that train that was in there, he was all stiff and he was like, I don't know what to do. And then he looked, saw that train, he went, oh, and he was just relaxed then. And it was just brilliant. And he loves coming out with me now. We go off to museums and, aircraft museums and fly into airfields. And as I say, he's got 25 hours now in his passenger logbook. Then got into Fly magazine, took my daughter out during COVID. In fact, I've got a video coming up now when we came to land at Bath. So you see us coming into land there. And she loves it, and she can fly the plane as well. We got above Bolton Stadium, and I said, right, keep it straight and level. We're going to our house up near Preston. And she was like that, and she's holding on, and she's looking. And I tell you what, she kept it. She got it there better than me. And I think women are better than men at flying aircraft because they just don't over control things. What was that?
They don't need to reverse.
You're absolutely right. So is this on the play? Hopefully this will play. Oh, it's not going to do it. It's having problems playing videos. Let's have a look.
Is it playing here?
Yeah, it's...
Oh no, it's not playing here either.
Oh, there we go. So this is your typical, so I'm landing on 2-6 right at Barton. So you've got the flyover there, so this is where you see all the aircraft coming over. You've got the Trafford Centre just to the left.
That's the sewage works that somebody landed in quite a few years.
Yes, well my dad used to work down there at Eccles, and he had to fix it when it went over the back of the aircraft. That way. Yeah, watch her eyes. She looks over and she's thinking, has he got the speed right? Watch her in a minute. Look at her. I'm not sure you're doing this right, Dad.
She wasn't impressed.
No. But we've just been over the Trough of Bowland and everything. We've been over the back of Parliament. And there was paragliders, and she was counting all the paragliders flying.
Are we easy to spot?
That's my point. No.
No.
Yeah, paragliders aren't so bad. Depends on the terrain. Really. This was definitely the early days. Still got my stopwatch on, which you use for all the navigation. And there we go. Go down.
Yeah, oh, we've survived again.
The amount of people that have said that. Marie was one of them. Oops, what have I done? How's that done? Oh, there we go. So, some of the characters that I've taken. There's Marie. up there. We went up over the lakes for her birthday. What was it she said, Brian?
It was a fantastic day.
Yeah, but what was it she said beforehand?
Oh, she said she didn't want anything to do with anything to do with A. And so I said, well, when she found out she was doing aviation with Andy Archer, that was.
But yeah, we went up over the lakes and it was a fantastic day.
Was it the adventure or?
Yeah. Paul, he's taken me up plenty of times, and that, and you know, he comes with me sometimes, and then, Linda, we did a great flight. We went, it was during COVID, and we could fly, but we went over Manchester Airport. There was no flights flying, so everybody was getting transits over the top, and as we went over the airport, I just went to the tower and said, got a request. And he's like, go ahead. And I went, can we orbit over the runways? And we did, and we orbited over the runways while she was filming. So, yeah. And then, Jim, you over there?
No, is it me?
That's you. Again, early days, you have to come out again. So yeah, so I'd love taking people out. And as I said, people that haven't been in little aircraft before, it's brilliant to do that. So yeah, so I bought a share in an aircraft. Then, as I said, hiring an aircraft from the school about 18 months. And then we'd been trying to get a group together to buy an aircraft and get a share, and it just wasn't working out. And then there was a group of guys that were sort of trading up to a different aircraft. There was 5 of them in the syndicate, 4 of them left. One of them, Steve, is still in it with us, and he's a great lad. And it wasn't his time to move up to something different. So 4 of them left, and we just negotiated with them and bought a share each in it. So yeah, it was a home built in 2003, so it's 20 years old now. Built in someone's garage. And yeah, as I say, 4 of the 5 people went on to bigger aircraft, and then a new group of 5 formed, and we've got a real good group. Got a retired guy with 1,000 hours. We've got Steve, who's got about 280 hours. Bit of a weekend warrior like me. Got a guy that pays in, doesn't fly it. Perfect kind of person. Yeah, they're the best, but not really, because you do want hours on it, because it's putting money into the pot, because you're always thinking, as you see down here, 2,000 hours on the engine and airframe. At some point, you are going to get to the point where you're going to need to replace the engine. So, and there's a bit of cost there. So you do want it to be doing hours to pay into the pot that's then going to replace the engine or do the maintenance on it. But great aircraft, 80 horsepower engine, 90 to 100 mile an hour cruise, 4.5 hours, still at 450 kilograms maximum takeoff weight, and it'll never get approved for anything more than that. But it's a real touring aircraft. As I say, Pete goes off to France, and I've got plans to go and do some stuff. And it's got pilot aware and Sky Echo in it again, because all the conspicuity stuff, it's really gonna start motoring now. It's really gonna be needed. It's hanging at Manchester. Oops.
So do you still pay every time you go out in it?
Yes. Yeah.
Maintenance?
I pay, so when I book it, it's £17 an hour that we put in.
Yeah.
And then you put your fuel in on top and all that. So, and that £17 is the £17 per hour that goes towards an engine fund or maintenance pot.
Yeah.
So what's the cost of that aircraft?
It's about, I think it's insured for 36k, something like that. So,
What's the insurance cost? What's the fuel cost again? You mentioned that.
well, I'm going to go through that actually.
Okay.
So yeah. So there it is, the love of my life, the silver thing, not the not the wife stood behind.
Yeah, This is being recorded.
I know.
Right behind.
Yeah, she hasn't seen this.
It will come as a
So
surprise
yeah,
to
and
us.
it's a great little aircraft. We're down on the ground at Wolverhampton, Halfpenny Green, or Halfpenny Green as they call it. You know, it's got a pretty standard cockpit in it, really. You know, a speed indicator. You don't usually get artificial horizon, but this one's got one, which is great. Not that I've done any instrument stuff, but if we were to end up in cloud, which you don't particularly want to do, you've got that there, which is good. Altimeter, you've got the vertical speed indicator. It's just rev counter, fuel pressure gauge, slip ball. These are all your engine instruments, and you've got, you know, your compass. It's next to useless, that bloody thing. Radio, and then your transponder. This is a really old Mo Charlie transponder, so I think it shows a blip on a radar screen, but it doesn't give much any information. But then what we have the other gadgets in there that will assist with that. Oh, and I should say, my iPad there that then links up to the gadgets in the plane, which then gives not only navigation but also picks up aircraft as well, and will also Bluetooth it to my headset to tell me, so I don't even have to look at the screen. It'll say aircraft, such a thing, and it'll tell me all the detail about it. So how's it working out? Fantastic availability. I mean, fifth ownership. You know, it's, as I say, we've got one guy that doesn't fly it, one that's a retiree, so he's flying it during the week. It's great. I've got it booked out for Thursday, Friday this week if the weather's all right. Going on a bit of a mission, doing something. So no time slot restrictions like we had hiring the school aircraft. So, you know, I just say to the guys, you know, if we are taking it away, we do WhatsApp each other and just go, do you mind me taking it away for a couple of days? And they'll go, no. And everybody always says yes, because they know that they will be asking at some point. So, yeah. Overnight, weekend week. My flying hours have increased considerably since owning the share. But it's reduced the cost. So it's costing me, if I'm flying it on my own, 40 to 50 quid an hour. That's everything in. That's all sort of like our hire charge, the landing, the fuel, and all that. It's about 40 to 50 quid an hour. Now, you can legally cost share. So if I take somebody up, generally people will split the cost half and half. So actually, when I'm going up, so I went to Northumberland with a mate, and he says, go on, take us out. We went up to Northumberland, we were flying for 4 hours. We had lunch in a village somewhere, and we put everything in the place. He says, come on, let's work out how much it costs. It costs 20 quid an hour each. And you think, it's really doable, that. Really is. Maintenance, hangarage, and insurance is shared, and group knowledge transfer, that's brilliant. Just going out with each other, flying with each other. But also, we've just had an issue with the exhaust this week. One of the lads works for Jaguar Land Rover, quite hands-on. He's had the exhaust off, we've had it welded, it's put back on today, and you can do a lot of your maintenance yourself, and then just get it certified by somebody. So it's great, and it's great being in a group. It's a great group. I've not found a disadvantage with it yet. I really haven't. It's great. So, the old adage, anything that flies, or floats, flies, or hooks, hire it.
Don't own it.
I say share it. Maybe not with the last one. But share it, because, you know, you're just sharing the cost of everything. You really are. So like I say, insured for about 36k, I think it is. We just redid it recently. My share cost was $6,500, but that was me negotiating that with the guy that was selling it. So it's not cheap, but it's not bad for a fifth share in an aircraft. It's, yeah. And then we're paying 48 quid a month as a fixed cost into a pot. So that's basically covering hangarage and maintenance on it. And then the hourly rate, as I say, is about 40 to 50 pound an hour, and that's me throwing fuel in it, that's just the flying time, something like that. So engine time, fuel, landing fees, and the like. And I'm averaging about 40 to 50 hours a year. COVID took a real big hit on that, obviously. We kept getting banned from flying, so that took a bit of a hit. And then we've had some really shit weather. You know, sort of probably November through to February. You're getting very, very little flying. But annual cost that it's costing me is about 3k a year for all that sort of 40 to 50 hours flying. So it's not that bad. If I was playing golf, it'd probably be double that. And golf shit. So, yeah. And cost sharing. So the ability for people to be able to pay towards it, and you know, taking people up, all those people that have come up with it also, you know, just split the cost half and half. And if they were to go and get a pleasure flight, they'd be paying 3 or 4 times that amount to get a pleasure flight. And they come up with me and they get, where did I go the other day? I went up to Carlisle and then back over the lakes with a mate, and I think it cost us 65 quid each, and we were up for 4 hours. 4 hours flying, and then we all mapping our way all over the lakes, and it's like, it's just, yeah, it's great. So, just quickly then, just going through a bit of aerial photography really, a bit like you, John. I do enjoy aerial photography. I've probably not got it down to fine art. Like, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, so a few adventures. So this is one of the flights where we went over Manchester Airport. So going over Joddle Bank, and then we went down to Holmes Chapel, Joddle Bank, and then went direct over the airport. And yeah, it was just great to do that flight. So this is me going over, and that aircraft there, I flew back from New York on that. I was on a work trip to Chicago and I flew back on that, and I had to come back a day early because COVID hit and America was about to shut its door. This was 3 months later when I flew over the airfield, and it was still sat there at the gate. And there was over 100 aircraft on the ground. It was a bit of a humbling flight. I've got a video on YouTube of it, and I was just like, whoa, and you realise. And there was 2 aircraft coming in, one from Aberdeen, and the air traffic controller, I think, was just asking them, because I just thought, I think he wants to know whether he wants to come in to work on Monday or whether he'll need to come into work. And he asked the pilot, and there was a Logan Air, and he said, yeah, I've got 2 coming in from Aberdeen. And then there was somebody coming in from Frankfurt, and he said they got 3 passengers on a 737, I think it was, something like that. And you're just like, and then you realise that the industry's a bit shot after the pandemic. But yeah, I did it a couple of times, and it was great to do it. I would probably do it again, and you could still get right over the top of the airport, even with the aircraft taking off. I'd rather you go over the middle of it than where they're climbing out or coming into land. So I will try that when I've put the courage up again. Jim, you remember this one, don't you?
Yeah, it looks like my flight.
That's your photo.
Is it?
I've robbed it off Facebook. But yeah, we just gone up. This was in the high wing aircraft before I got to share, and we flew up to Arnside, didn't we? And I knew that the weather was going to be a bit dodge that day, but I thought it's fine. I know the area, we'll get through, and we did. But it was coming down like this, wasn't it? But we got up to Arnside. What was it like? It was bright blue skies, fluffy clouds, and then we were coming back down. And I remember you turning to me and you went, "You've flown in this type of weather before?" I'm like, yeah, don't worry. I sped up, because that thing was coming across.
Big wooden nose.
Yeah, because this is just, the Lancaster University, is this Galgate maybe? So it came right across, and we did get a bit of washing, but it was fine. Do we recognise this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Burn Fell,
Yeah.
obviously Gisborne and that. So again, to your point, there are people like me flying round, and you could well be under these clouds.
You've gone under me.
I have. I actually looked at that video yesterday. Yeah, you were coming from Pendle, weren't you? Yeah, and I was in the high wing aircraft that I was hiring, and I went over. No, it was
Longridge.
Longridge.
Oh, it's Longridge, yeah.
Longridge, and funny enough, in my headset it said glider, and it was saying that somebody was about $2,000 above me.
I didn't have far,
Was it not Flam? I got some spurious thing then. Yeah, I don't know. But I didn't see you, but you saw me.
I feed into track 24, so I don't know.
Yeah, it might have been. It was giving some spurious thing on in the headset, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. But then you contacted me afterwards and said, was that you flying over there? I was like, yes, it was. Might have been. Yeah.
What's your cruise altitude usually?
Depends. In lower level, so if around here, 2.5.
Okay.
If they're instructing around here, they'll be up at probably 3 because they might be doing stalls or whatever they're doing. Obviously, getting it'll go 16,000 feet, but I'm not sure I'd want to do that. Obviously, need oxygen, but the engine, I think the engine would struggle. To be honest, I think the highest I've actually been higher in a paraglider than I have flown in there. I think up to 6K.
10,000 is easy. 6,000 is
Yeah, 6,000. Yeah, dead easy. So going over the lakes, depending on the weather conditions, I'll in the high cloud, I'll go up to 6 grand. So Ingleton, do you recognise that?
The way in.
Yeah, Ingleborough.
Yeah.
As well. So looking back towards Parlock over that way. Yeah, Ribblehead Viaduct. At times I've landed here and not get any further in paragliding. So this was a couple of weeks ago when it was, that really crisp Saturday, and I flew up to Carlisle, and this is just that's Sedbergh there, and this is the Howgirls. So I was probably above the motorway then, and then eventually it sort of comes round and then snakes through the Whitestones. But beautiful day because you could see so far. You could see 70 miles, so you could see the Isle of Man. It was just, Wharton, they're really friendly at Wharton because they're not that busy. You can give them a ring and say, can I come in and do some circuits? And they'll let you come in, do circuits, land, take off again, land, take off again. And I had the whole airfield to myself until a 737 came in, and I did sort of 6 circuits, thanked them, disappeared off, and then a 737 came in, and then, is that a C-17 or something? That then took off.
Oh, yeah.
Half an hour later, it's a Qatari one, and there was a typhoon on the deck.
Do you get charged for that?
No, everything's free. So you wouldn't go to Blackpool and go and do all your circuits out. Come here, and it's great. And they're really friendly as well. Excuse me. This was with Marie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so Langdale Pikes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you remember her asking you, were you allowed to fly this low?
Yeah, because what I like to do, it's a bit of a milk run going up into the lakes. If the weather's great, I can't go south, I've got to go north. I've just got to go into the lakes. And one of the milk run ones, which I actually did with Marie, was sort of go up Coniston at higher level, so you get along the Coniston Fells, go over the top and then do 500 foot down Windermere, pretending I'm, video it and speed it up and pretend I'm in a fighter aircraft. But I like to do that, and she did say that. She said, "Are you allowed to fly this low?" I was like, yes, I am. But that is the lowest you can fly. Same with paragliders, unless you're...
You don't chase the sheep then?
No. Although I do have a story that I did get reported to the CAA. Flying over our village, allegedly below 500 foot, but I wasn't, and I had to put a report in, and it was not a nice time. It's a bit like getting something through the post that's saying you're doing over 100 mile an hour on the motorway. It's guilty until proven innocent. So I had to put a report in and all that, and the subject matter expert from the CAA said, no, you've not done anything wrong. However, would you like to just read all this information? And I don't know who reported me, but I wasn't illegally flying, but I was sort of just between sort of 600 and 700 feet. It's a bit horsey around here where I live, and I think it might be just the horse brigade. This was a great trip. So Car Valley is up near Bretherton. If you know where Bretherton is, just north of Chorley, near Leyland. And there's a little airfield there. It's only a 10-minute drive from our house. So what I'd done, I'd left my car at Barton, brought the plane up in the evening, taken a friend's daughter flying for like a bit of a sunset flight, and then me and Jim got on our bikes the next morning, went down to the airfield, and then we flew up to the lakes. And yeah, so this is us going over Windermere at £5,000.
So is that airfield where there's like some garages? There's a garage
Yeah.
and an air conditioning.
Air conditioning place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what-
There's a few hangars there as well,
Yeah.
and that with a few aircraft in. Yeah, I like to fly in there. It's a really tight little strip. In fact, when I did my strip skills course, we flew into there as sort of one of the tasks to get in there. But yeah, and then we flew up over Windermere at £5,000, and then went over Coniston. So Coniston Old Man there, Weatherlands over here. Then you've got Dowcrag, where I got engaged actually. I was on Dowcrag. But yeah, great to be able to do. And then Scarfell Pike, it was so still that morning. And I've got my little lad with me, and I'm like, and he doesn't mind it when it's bumpy, but it was just so still. And it was great. And we were circling over it. I've got all the photographs where you can actually count 14 people on the summit.
Was that like a couple of weekends ago?
I did do it a couple of weekends ago, but this flight was earlier this year. But I was up there, 2 weekends ago I think it was.
I was on Langdales and I saw a couple of planes and I saw your Facebook post and I wonder.
It probably would have been, yeah. But yeah, Buttermere Bash, I did go, honest. I couldn't make the Buttermere Bash this year. I had other stuff on the other days, but me and my lad flew over it at 6,000 feet, making sure that we saw the NOTAM that it was up to 6,000, so we went 6, and we went for a bit of a visit. And then, so we're just over Catbells now, and we're heading just over here to Troutbeck Airfield. It's my favourite airfield, it's just brilliant.
House, is that? Rooking House Farm, is it?
No, Loft House Farm it's called. But, and this is it. So it's a bit of a mountain strip, and it's really got on the microlights sort of radar. And now they'll come in here, land here, camp for a few nights. It's actually the gyrocopter guy. He owns it. He's got a camping barn at the top end of the field. It's got showers. He has an honesty pot with beer fridge, showers, the lot. So I was aiming. I had the plane booked for me and my lad to go up and camp there, but the weather never turned out in the end. So we never ended up doing it. But I will do it when the weather improves. It's just a fantastic airfield. So Suter there, and then obviously you've got Blencathra and Sharp Edge. Yeah, that's Suter Fell.
Okay.
And last time I was there, a paraglider pilot did actually come over and he landed in the thing. He said, I thought I saw a windsock. And yeah, this is one of the runways. Bit of a challenge to get into it because you're sort of coming round sort of 700-800 feet above the ground, should we call it, and as you're dropping down and to come onto base and then final, you've got all the ground rising, and because it's there's quite a steep slope on this, so you always land uphill and you always take off downhill, and he always says to you, whatever you do, always take off downhill. When I took off last time, we were 2 up, and I had somebody else, an adult in with me, and we had a tailwind of about 10 mile an hour.
God.
And I didn't like it.
It's quite
It's significant.
Yeah.
And there was bloody hay bales all over the place as well. But anyway, the aircraft can take and it gets off, but it was just a bit, the run was just too long for my liking. It really was. But yeah. And this was a couple of weekends ago. I tried a bit of HDR on it. It didn't really work, did it?
Sorry.
It's all right. So yeah, so Blencathra, Sharp Edge there. Obviously got Keswick and Derwentwater, the A66 running through. And we went over Crummock and Buttermere. It was cold. It looked really bleak down at Buttermere there. But yeah, another one is Kirkbride, which is to the northwest of Carlisle. Great airfield. This you can just drop in there if you're hopping into Scotland. They'll refuel you and that. They do a lot of gyrocopter stuff here and microlights. But it's an old Bomber Command base.
Are they all privately owned, these airfields?
Yeah, most of them are. Yeah, there's very few that are owned by, you know, like a local council. Blackpool is owned by a local council, but they've only taken it back into the council's hands, so it doesn't then get developed in the wrong way. And they're doing quite a lot at Blackpool, but yeah, they're mostly private.
And those clubs and such like?
Yeah, clubs or a limited company will have it. But yeah.
Do you always have radio contact when you're going in?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Generally. I mean, so coming into that strip there, if Roger's got his radio out and he's available, he might give you some information. If not, you're flying over the airfield, looking at the windsock, seeing which runway to go on. And what you'll do is blind calls and just tell your intention, so if anybody else is in the area, they know what you're doing. And yeah, but generally they might have an air ground, which is somebody that just tells you a little bit of detail. You'll radio them up. If it's air ground, they'll just tell you what the wind's doing and which runway you're on. But they're not allowed to instruct you.
No.
And even at Barton, they don't instruct you. They can only instruct you up until the threshold of the runway. Beyond that, it's all at pilot discretion. So, yeah. So I decided, because it was pretty windy in the lakes, I'd been over the lakes, landed at Kirkbride, and the wind was picking up in the afternoon, so I thought, you know what? I've never flown down the west coast. So I flew down the west coast, so there's Whitehaven with its marina that has got, I don't know, was it iron ore or something like that? It's been contaminated. So yeah, can't remember what the reason was. I don't think they know what the reason was, but it just appeared overnight. And St. Bees Head.
Nice.
Yeah, I think quite a few of us have flown that, haven't we? On paraglides from Hay Pit, was it? Hay Pit. Yeah. But yeah, it's cracking flight this. Then going past Wastwater. I took this from the west coast, but with zoom or telephoto lens, and then sort of cropped it and zoomed it in. So I think that's Scarfell Pike, maybe. I think somebody might be able to help me out there. And I've just got a photograph actually looking the other way, looking out to the coast. But that's great. Got Wastwater Screes. So that's a flying site, isn't it? Wastwater Screes. Sellafield. Yeah. I was up at 3 grand, so you can pretty much fly over it if you want to, but just stayed on the coast. Cartmel and Fluteborough, so there's Cartmel Racecourse there. It just looks stunning. Just really sort of turquoisey. Obviously you can see Heysham Power Station, and then we just sort of fly straight across the Morecambe Bay. This is another video. Let's see if this works. Yeah, so this is Coventry. So me and my lad earlier, you see he stars quite a bit in this because he likes going on various trips. And I just googled air museums and that, and where there's an airfield. So we then flew into to Coventry. And
What's it like getting there from Manchester? Does Manchester as base get in the way? Is it like a big round trip? Or can you go?
Yeah, no, so between Manchester and Liverpool, you've got the low-level route that basically towards Warrington, Thelwall Viaduct. It's a 4-mile wide corridor that you can't fly any higher than 1,300 feet. And it runs down to basically Alton Park, So there's a full corridor, it's called the low level corridor. So you fly down that, it's a bit busy. You get all sorts of military, helicopters, all sorts coming up there, and everybody, you can't do above 140 knots, I think it is, in there. But it's just too busy. They are making some changes to it, making it wider. See that? You've seen the Smiths there, the toy shop. He says, can we go? No, you can't.
Jump down.
Yeah.
Looks a bit bumpy.
It was windy. Yeah, he's chatting to me. It was windy, but it was pretty much on the nose. So it's probably just a bit of turbulence.
You ever make use of weather thermals like cloud streets or anything like that?
What,
Try to change your course to a cloud street or something?
no, I've not done that. Though Marcus, my instructor, said that he once had a rough running engine and in a really light microlight, 3-axis, and he managed to thermal it and got it back to the airfield. Said he'd just tick over and he said he could just get this. But yeah. So yeah, so somewhere like this, it's got a big museum over here, and yeah, it's just somewhere to land, but it's not that busy places. So yeah, there's loads of aircraft that you could go around. We went in a Vulcan, and that got to go in the cockpit. Some closer to home, so there's Preston. See the docks there, the River Ribble running round. P&E off to the side there, and then obviously centre of town, St Warburg's church there. Ribble Estuary, that's cool. Yeah, that's a really nice photograph. So when you're going over to towards sort of Blackpool, you go Southport and go across to St Anne's Pier is one of the waypoints that sort of send you to, and then you've got Blackpool Airport there, and then the tower.
High G landed on the beach the other week.
Oh, we did. Yeah. They had an engine problem with the engine, didn't they? They landed on the beach.
Yeah, you were that.
Did he?
Give a trout flight.
Oh shit.
He had to. He got a mate to telly lift it onto the prom, and he
Yeah.
had to sleep in it overnight, so no one messed with it.
Yeah. Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Blackpool Tower, it's the only way my kids see Blackpool these days is from the plane. I refuse to take them. Sorry to anybody that might live in Blackpool, but no. So we only ever go over it like that. So, Pendle Hill. So yeah, so a few photographs there. I've got loads more, but I don't want to bore everybody with them. Some trips that are in the planning, or have been in the planning, and I didn't make this year. So Glenforsa on the Isle of Mull. This is a fantastic spot. I had it booked for the whole of the coronation weekend, and I could have got there, but I couldn't got back for 5 days because the weather turned. So I canned that. So I'm going to do that this year. And yeah, stay up there. You can stay in the hotel at £200 a night, or you can camp and use all the hotel facilities. And then West Coast of Scotland, I'll probably combine these. And I had a plan to go island hopping and just go to a number of the West Coast sort of islands. Scottish Highlands, I have flown them once when I was learning. I was up on a holiday and I just went to get an extra lesson with some guy out of Perth, and we went up into sort of ski area, and it was awesome. And I just want to do more of that, flying in the mountains. That's one thing actually. Paragliding gives you the confidence and the knowledge about flying in the mountains. It is a little bit different being fixed wing, but I'll quite happily go up there, whereas some of my co-owners, they won't, and they're scared of the mountains, scared of the hills, scared of the thermals, and it's like, well, you're going to get them. So, no, I want to get straight up there. Isle of Man, I've got one of my mates, he doesn't fly. He says, I want to go to the Isle of Man. He says, can we fly? So, we're going to do that this year. It's an hour flight from Manchester, or from Blackpool, it's about an hour. over there. I think you're over the water for about 45 minutes. Life jackets, arrows and all that, but yeah, the aircraft doesn't know it's over water, it'll just carry on, but if anything goes wrong...
You know, it might know.
Well, exactly, yeah, you never know. You never know. Isle of Wight as well, that's always a good one. France, yeah. And then Eastern Europe, I do want to go that way, and you can fly on the licence I've got to all those places. So, yeah. So, big question, can it complement paragliding or does it overshadow it? I think it can complement it, but if you're time rich, I'm not time rich, and where I started was I've got 2 young kids and a really busy job and I fly at weekends, and I'm trying to mix both, and I'm not doing a good deal of paragliding because I'm doing more of the power stuff. But as the kids get older, I will come back into it. And I remember, you know, like you, John, and probably the same with you, Simon, and Jim, with the kids, you sort of dropped away for a little bit or weren't coming out as much. And you do notice that, and then all of a sudden, kids sort of leave home and then you come back a little bit. So it'll come, but quite enjoy flying the power stuff as well. So yeah, right, one last thing. And Scott, you were asking about it. EC, electronic conspicuity, and this is sort of the safety bit. The skies are busy, and they're getting busier, and they're gonna get busier because of drones and all that shit. And then the CAA are gonna bring in mandatory stuff. So if you've not got an EC gadget, get one, because
You still get.
you can still, yeah. So that grant is still available up until 31st of March. Whether they'll extend it again, I don't know. But just get one of these or something similar and get it, because it bloody works. I was flying, I think I've said before, I was flying over the Yorkshire Dales and I was coming south from Northumberland with a mate. And all of a sudden in my headset, I got aircraft overtaking 250 knots, 1,500 feet below. And I look at my screen, which is, well, no, it wasn't a Typhoon. It was a bloody A400, you know, the cargo plane. And it was scud running at 254. So it was no conflict to me. But he sort of appeared on my screen down here that looked like a 4-engined airliner. It comes up as a symbol, and I was like, Jesus. I was like, right, get the camera out for this. And all of a sudden I heard glider, 3 o'clock, 4 miles, same level. And I look across, and it's a paraglider. And it's Kevin McLaughlin. And I found it was Kevin McLaughlin because I went on the XC League that night and found it. And I went, were you here? I said, I've got a photograph of you. And it's me taking a photograph out at him. And he went, yeah. But he said, did you see that bloody plane that went underneath us? And I went, yes, I did. So it's really busy. And it is only going to get busier. So that grant is still available. Get something. Because
another reason to get one was there was I think you watched it, little thing looking at pilot workload, and you touched on this. And one of the big things that they found is that when the display says glider or plane or whatever at 3 miles wherever, the pilots tend to concentrate on the stuff that's coming up on their screen and stop looking for anyone that doesn't have it.
Yeah.
So if you don't have it, there's a good chance that the guy in the Cessna is trying to find the one that's come up on the screen, and he's not looking for anything else.
Yeah. Exactly. So it really is. I mean, this happened to me. This is again, I was up with a mate. We're coming down. This is just near junction 32 of the M6, and this aircraft is now flying out of Blackpool. He's going to start doing pleasure flights in it, so you can pay a lot of money to go up in it, and he's just getting all the certification at the moment. Now we've got Sky Echo, and we've also got Pilot Aware in there. So this and the other gadget all see different things. I always connect to Pilot Aware. I don't connect to this because it's a bit crap. But it's outputting that. It's outputting ADSB. This guy, I think, has got ADSB or he's got something in there because I got that warning through my headset. Aircraft 5 o'clock, same level, overtaking 200 knots. And I was like, shit. And I'm looking over my shoulder and thinking, right, where's this going to come from? And this was off flight radar. I got it afterwards. And yeah, it's not probably as accurate as it could be, but it's pretty close. And that was him. And I think he'd seen me, climbed, and then went off. And he went over Longridge Fell, and then went over Blackburn, circled over there, and then I was in contact with Blackpool, so I could hear that he'd gone over that way. I thought, right, I'm going to jump onto there, to Blackpool, and yeah, but it's busy. So get a device, because it does bloody work. Here's one. So I was flying up to that airfield in the lakes, right. I'm at £5,000 here, so I'm no conflict here. Spot the helicopter.
Yeah.
Did he spot the hawk? It's going the other way. And I was watching, I went, oh shit, and they just literally went like that, past each other. And you just think, on a clear day, there could be paragliders and everything in there. And the modern aircraft, the modern RAF aircraft now, they do have ADSB and stuff like that in there, and gadgets that will pick this stuff up. And if they haven't, they will be getting them. So just do it, because otherwise it won't be long before someone's on the front end of either a light aircraft or a jet.
Does it say glider or paraglider? Or?
He says glider. Because it's flat, it just knows it's a glider. But yeah. But yeah, I would highly recommend it, particularly as well, flying anywhere near here. Not that you do that very often because, the airspace and that, but it's bloody busy.
It would be useful to say paragliding, because we're pretty much stationary.
I think, yeah.
Compared to you.
Yeah. I mean, in the lakes now, just so that you're aware, they do have a low level frequency. And I was on it midweek, and I was flying down the side of Windermere, and at first I'd listened in and wasn't putting any calls out, and then I heard a Merlin helicopter coming down from Penrith, and he was putting blind calls out. So I then started putting blind calls out as well, just telling where it was. And then there was a Typhoon pilot over Dishforth, and he was saying, right, heading to bottom of Windermere. And he was at same level as me, and I'm heading halfway down Windermere. And then we almost had a conversation together. It wasn't a direct conversation, but just blind calling. And he basically said, right, I'm descending down to 250 feet. And I'm like, I'm remaining at, 2,500 feet. And yeah, and then sure enough, he came round and then shot up Windermere. But that day I was putting those blind calls out because I could see paragliders around as well. And if he'd have had to pull out because he'd seen a paraglider, he could conflict with me. And it's like, so, yeah.
So you're letting him know, don't pull out.
Yeah, stay down there. But it's, I just think it's...
So are you able to talk to them?
Yeah, I did, to be
That's
honest.
on airband though, isn't it?
That is on airband. So you wouldn't get on that frequency. And you could have an airband scanner. You could have an airband scanner, but you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it.
You can talk to all these other.
Yeah.
Making statements about what's going on, what you're doing.
Yeah.
Not necessarily talking.
You're not necessarily talking to them, although he did talk to me. And I just said, I'm visual with you, and then he sort of like high bank, and then he went up there. But yeah, but really worthwhile getting something if you haven't got it. And I don't know how long that grant will be there for. So
How many years have they renewed that now? Sort of
I think they've renewed it.
About 3 years.
They've done it about 3 times. So I think it's been around since about 2020.
I think they just want you to have it.
It's
They do.
also a pot of money
But when-
that they had.
Yeah.
Hasn't been used up yet, so.
When you think about drones, they're trying to put loads of, you know, the drone traffic's going to be mental. And they're putting a load of like temporary danger areas in and stuff like that, which is all going to affect us and, you know, GA and all that. And yeah, and it's pushing everything to have something that just blips out and says, I'm here. And it's not about being the police. It's just about just saying I'm here so that somebody else can avoid it. Oh, yeah. So there we go.
Have you had any engine failure or almost?
Yeah. When I was doing a conversion onto this, and I was with my instructor, and we'd flown out, and we got just before the stadium, Bolton Stadium, and the airspace rises from 2 grand, and then you can go up to, I think you can climb to 2.5 grand. And he said, right, he said, are you going to climb? I was like, yeah. And I was actually doing my skills course, my strict skills course, and we're just going out to up near where I live. And anyway, so I pushed the throttle in. I was up, and it went. That was that. And my reaction was shocking. It was shocking. And I think it's because, as I said earlier, you fly differently when you've got an instructor there. And I sort of went, looked at him, and he went, nose down, and he's like, so we got the nose down and everything. And then he said, right, I've got the throttle, you just fly the plane. And he was trying to work out what it was. We think it was carb icing. So just because of the atmosphere and that, we think it was carb icing. And anyway, so he then radios the airfield, and he said, he just turns to me and says, have you got this? And I'm like, yep, I've got it. So he was just like, right, so he did all the radio and I just flew it in and basically just went, boom, got rid of everybody. And I just came in and we didn't do a normal circuit, we just literally straight in and landed on the runway. And we had they had a brand new fire truck there. It was his first week out, and we were the first emergency. So they had the blues and twos on, and they had the foam nozzle following us, and they had the heat-seeking thing out, and we're like, don't use that on us. But yeah, but that's the only time, and we can only put it down to icing because
that's the problem, isn't it? Because it leaves when it's melted. There's no sign of
yeah, and we got on the ground and we ran it up, and it was just like, yeah, and it's just like, yeah, it can't replicate it.
So you can then fly again without any.
Yeah, I mean, then after that we revved it and we kept it all warm, and just then, and I said, right, well, there's only one more thing. I said, let's get back up there, and we did a circuit in it, and it was absolutely fine. So I think it was icing, but who knows?
It's fairly uncommon then that they fail.
Yeah. What they do, they don't fail totally. They lull you into a false sense of security. So they'll cough a bit, they'll do something, and then they'll come back again, and so it's actually worse. Sometimes you'd rather it just bloody fail, and then your decision is emergency landing in a field or somewhere. Whereas if it's coughing and spluttering or doing something, it's going, oh, well, we might get further, and all you're doing is descending to the ground and giving yourself no time. But
have you got a sort of list of fields you can land in near to the airstrip or on your route?
no, what you're supposed to do, and I must admit I don't do it often enough, is as you're flying, is just looking, if the engine failed now, where would I land? And you're supposed to just be looking and that. And I have started doing it now because I'm more experienced now. Some of the other stuff some of the workload is reduced somewhat. I'm now able to think more about what would actually happen if the spinny thing stopped spinning.
All fields aren't flat and green, are they?
No, but that's part of the training. They'll say, don't go for brown fields, go for green fields. Look at the bloody how level it is, what's the entry into it, is there any pylons and stuff like that.
And
It's
is
just-
there a statistic for, you know, field landings, if you will, outfield landings, as success, failure? No?
No, I don't think so. There's a lot of successful ones,
Right, okay.
yeah, but then there's some that pile in,
Mm.
but you know, so yeah,
Yorkshire Sailplane Club went out quite a lot.
yeah,
What's that? Land out?
Yeah, the Sailplane Club.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Yorkshire one.
yeah. The sailplanes do a lot,
Yeah, so.
yeah. Oh, yeah,
They have, I mean, when you look at the sort of XC track software and stuff like that, they have things called landables, they have landables, don't they? So they know where to go.
right,
The
yeah,
Alps they do, yeah. Every valley in the Alps has got a
Yeah.
landing field.
No, landing field, yeah.
yeah. But, there we go. Any more questions?
Why aren't we charging £30 a head for ground school?
No, yeah, it's their business, isn't it? It's yeah. But yeah, no, it's good. Enjoy it, and if anybody ever wants to come out, give us a shout and that.
I'll do it again.
Yeah.
What about Friday?
Well, funny, right? So on Friday, I'll tell you what I'm doing on Friday, or potentially doing on Thursday, Friday. One of my co-owners, Steve, is in the civil air support, and he's got me to join up. So I'm joining up as a pilot or an observer. And what the civil air support is, it's a charity, and so basically you give your time, your aircraft. There's a little bit of expenses that you can claim back on it and stuff like that. And it might be, so this week, I might be counting seals, Flamborough Head, and seal pups. But they do other stuff like, they have a memorandum of understanding with blood bikes. So if they need to get some blood from somewhere to somewhere else, they don't use drones, and they can't get it via bike, say it's on an island somewhere, they'll call civil air support. So I've just joined them, and I've got to go through some training and all that. But it just adds a different sort of level of stuff. It gives it almost a task to do. And they often do missing persons, whereby emergency services have, they've given up, can't find the person. So it's very popular in Scotland, this way. It's very remote, and you've lost somebody in the mountains, and the family often contact and say, can you do one last search? And they've been pretty successful in finding, it's often a body. But yeah, in fact, this thing, Steve took it up, and when Nicola Bully ended up in the River Wyre, they went with this aircraft and searched after the police had stopped using the air support unit, and they didn't see anything. They went all the way along and right out into Morecambe Bay and didn't see anything, and they looked back on the photographs, but there was nothing they could see. But so I'm sort of doing that as well.
Interesting.
Yeah. There we go.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.